Well, from a strategy perspective, what the 49ers did today with their 53-man roster is absolutely fascinating. They laid the initial foundation and they went heavy on the trenches. Fans who wanted more of an investment in the offensive line, you got it. Drew Moss made this team, so did a backup right tackle, so did a backup center in Matt Hennessy, beating out Nick Zakelj for that job. But let's go through a quick explainer here. I zoomed in on the Transamerica Pyramid in the San Francisco skyline. You see that pyramid constructed in the late 60s, opened up, I think, in 1972? It's one of the iconic skyscrapers in the world. There were several years when it wasn't finished yet. Judging the 49ers 53-man roster at this point on Tuesday would be like judging the Transamerica Pyramid or any large building while it hasn't even topped out yet. The 49ers are not done building this roster. I'm seeing so many ridiculous takes regarding the receiver room. Oh, it's too thin. The linebacker room, why didn't they take Curtis Robinson? Calm down. The 49ers are going to get to all of these questions, I'm sure, tomorrow. They still have to build a 17-man practice squad, and they have to see if they're awarded any players whom they claimed off of waivers. A lot of cuts around the NFL, and the 49ers are putting in their waiver claims right now. We'll find out if their positioning, which is good this year, number 11 on the waiver wire, will pay off. But we could start off with Drew Moss. He made this football team in that O-line room alongside 9 other offensive linemen because of what he showed run blocking wise, the tenacity that he showed on the ground game throughout the course of the preseason. And the 49ers, realizing that he's bringing something special and realizing that there's actually a deficit of quality offensive linemen around the NFL, said, we've got to roster this guy because if we waive him, he'll get picked up by someone else. By the way, it was congruent today, so I thought that it was worth mentioning. Jarrett Kingston, whom the 49ers waived last year along that offensive line and was poached by Carolina, was actually waived by Carolina today. So if the 49ers really want Jarrett Kingston back, perhaps they'll put in a claim for him, but they do have 10 offensive linemen right now on this 53-man roster. Now, I had told you that the potential holdup to carrying Drew Moss might lie in the fact that the 49ers badly need a backup center who's ready on game days on the 53-man roster. And if Nick Zakelj or Matt Hennessy took that spot, there might be a squeeze there that would disallow Drew Moss from being on the 53-man roster. But the 49ers just stampeded through that squeeze. And they stampeded through it not once, but twice. Hennessy made the roster over Zakelj. That's your backup center. And then Austin Pleasance also made the roster because the 49ers don't have a true swing tackle. Spencer Burford is going to back up the left side. Pleasance is going to back up the right. We will see if the 49ers improve the Pleasance situation through the waiver wire, but I will caution you that it is very difficult to find quality offensive linemen. They're in short supply, which is why the 49ers did not expose Drew Moss to waivers. Then you could look at some of the positions that have fewer bodies right now for the 49ers because obviously they stocked up 21 of 53 spots on linemen in this initial roster. And if you want to talk about the build of the skyscraper, well, there's still some windows left to be installed. Maybe that's analogous to the 49ers wide receiver room, which certainly is looking thin after this first day of work, but there's a lot more to come tomorrow. For example, Russell Gage did not make the 53-man roster, but Russell Gage is going to be back with this 49ers team, either via the practice squad or as a re-sign tomorrow after the 49ers take care of some extra roster business, such as a move of Jacob Cowing to injured reserve. Cowing was not one of the 49ers to return from IR designations at the cut down. Kevin Givens was, and the 49ers kept the other one in their back pocket. Why? Because if you designate somebody to return from IR at the cut down, he automatically counts against one of your maximum allotted 8 returns. They're sure that Kevin Givens is going to be back. Maybe there's not as much certainty about Jacob Cowing's status on this football team, especially given the fact that the 49ers are going to be scouring the waiver wire for wide receivers here over the course of the next several hours. So they just want to maintain option power, keep as many options in your back pocket as possible. And they've done this through, the funniest example is Thomas Morstead, the punter, was released. A lot of people freaked out. I warned you the 49ers would operate moves like this. Morstead's going to be back on the team tomorrow. This allows them to place players on injured reserve when IR rules are looser following the cut down. So they have a wink-wink arrangement with Thomas Morstead. For 24 hours, the 49ers won't have a punter, but that all is going to be solved by the time that they take the practice field at 3:10 p.m. on Wednesday. Jennings is currently on this 53-man roster. That does not preclude a potential move to IR or the threat of it from the 49ers to try to bring some resolution to the current contract and calf issue. In fact, it was always more likely that Jennings would make the roster the first day and the 49ers wouldn't have to make a move until the next day because they wanted to maintain Jennings' short-term IR availability. The key here is that you've got to make the 53-man roster in order to come back within 4 days, unless you take up one of those cut-down designations. And the 49ers obviously did not want to use that on Jennings since his status does seem to be in more limbo. So Robbie Chosen, Russell Gage, Isaiah Hodgins, all technically cut today, but there's a very, very high chance that you haven't heard the last from the majority of those players when it comes to how the 49ers are building this team. And when I convene with you tomorrow, maybe from another cool spot here in San Francisco, we will be talking about potentially some new faces in the receiver room after the 49ers scour the waiver wire. Turns out that there were no surprises in the running back room, even though Kyle Shanahan said that there might be. But the 49ers took their 5, including the fullback Kyle Juszczyk, who we were expecting, McCaffrey, Robinson, Guerrero, Jordan James, or the running backs. Jeff Wilson Jr., vested veteran, released. He can re-sign with the 49ers practice squad if he does not get offers to join the 53-man roster of another team. No surprises at quarterback either. The 49ers had done some of that cut-down work the day before with Tanner Mordecai and Carter Bradley, both waived with injury designations. The 49ers' 2 rostered quarterbacks right now are Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. They're going to want at least a third in the building, probably on the practice squad, but if somebody good enough becomes available, maybe they'll make a 53-man roster spot to get him. We'll see who that ends up being. Again, a lot to settle as the 49ers try to figure things out with this 53-man roster moving forward. How about we take a quick little break? I know that we do this video every year for the 53-man roster from a cool spot of San Francisco. Well, there you've got Alcatraz. Swam out there without the wetsuit. That was fun. Got that checked off. Gonna have to get back in the bay maybe after today since it's been so busy. And if you pan to the right, this is called Ina Coolbrith Park in the city. And that is a look at downtown, which is our metaphor today for this 49ers roster build, which does feature those 11 or 10 offensive linemen on the 53-man roster. 3 tight ends, by the way, Kittle, Farrell, and Tonjes. So Jake Tonjes beats out Braden Willis. 5 wide receivers for now. That's going to be in a lot of flux as we expected it to be. 5 running backs and 2 quarterbacks. All right, now we get to move to the defensive line. This is so trench-oriented. I love the fact that the 49ers have come out and they said after they were 6-11 last year, we're going to build this from the foundation. We saw it throughout the course of the entire offseason, the investment in the lines, especially in the defensive line through the draft, right? But now we see a reflection of that in this initial build of the 53-man roster with the 10 offensive linemen and 11 defensive linemen making this first cut. If you're here to complain about Sebastian Valdez not making the 49ers 53-man roster, I can tell you that you might be a happier camper at this time tomorrow because there is a solid chance that he clears waivers and is back with the 49ers practice squad. But as we were saying in multiple videos, multiple articles up on the San Francisco Standard heading up to this cut down, it was unlikely that Valdez would be able to make the team. He's an undrafted free agent working against 2s and 3s primarily over the course of training camp in the preseason because of the simple numbers. One piece of really solid news for the 49ers today came when they activated Yetur Gross-Matos from the PUP list. He had been expected to be transferred over to the regular season PUP list and therefore miss at least 4 games. This is quietly one of the more valuable defensive linemen in their rotation. Won NFC Defensive Player of the Week honors last year against Chicago, is capable of playing on the edge and also kicking in inside. That is very reminiscent of what Mykel Williams is going to be expected to do for the 49ers. So having a veteran pave the way, take some snap load off of Mykel Williams in that rotation is really important. But the activation of Gross Matos meant that one more defensive line spot than we had previously anticipated would be gobbled up. We thought that the 49ers would take 10 max. They ended up taking 11. Robert Beal Jr. got that 11th spot. I think he deserved it. He played very, very well this preseason, especially in the finale, and he did it against better competition than Sebastian Valdez. Plus, 49ers felt that they needed another speedy edge player, especially since they did cut Jalen Allen. Robert Beal runs that sub 4.5, and he's going to be behind Bryce Huff, the trade acquisition, in the pecking order. It's about building a strong, cohesive defensive line and leaving the door open for development. The 49ers felt that Sebastian Valdez was somebody who they might be able to get through to the practice squad if he can clear waivers. If they don't, well, that's the cost of doing business. They decided that Drew Moss on the offensive side of the ball would be worth protecting just because of the imbalanced demand for offensive and defensive linemen. It's a lot harder to get guys on the offensive side of the ball just given the state of football, but they ended up taking the chance with Sebastian Valdez. So you can see Bosa, Elliott, Kalia Davis, Mykel Williams. That's my projected starting 49ers defensive line. Bryce Huff is going to mix in those pass rushing situations. Evan Anderson, CJ West made the team, and Yetur Gross-Matos. Even if he's not back in week 1, this move signifies that they expect him to be back at some point within the first 4 weeks of the season. Alfred Collins will continue to develop for the 49ers. He obviously makes the 53. So does Sam Okawanu and Robert Beal Jr. Linebacker is another spot where the 49ers may be pulling one of those day 2 of the cut down moves. Curtis Robinson cut at that linebacker position. So the 49ers only have 5 right now on the 53-man roster. Robinson, coming off the ACL, had the pick 6. Great story. We talked to him in the locker room the other day. He's got a lot of talent. And, you know, we've even talked about him as a potential core 4 special teamer for the 49ers. As a vested veteran, would not surprise me if the 49ers re-sign Curtis Robinson tomorrow, if this was yet another one of those maneuvers, or if they were able to bring him back to the practice squad. But the linebacker room, Warner is obviously the top guy. D. Winters is number 2. Right now, Luke Gifford is the 49ers' 3rd linebacker. Tatum Bethune might be knocking on that door. He made this roster. And then there's Nick Martin. You know, guess who was cut from the Rams? Chris Pooh Paul. A lot of people wanted the 49ers to draft him instead of Martin. But Paul was cut today, and Martin has, based on his improvement over the preseason, it has been meteoric. It's looking more and more like Martin was the right bet from San Francisco. I projected 6 linebackers. We'll see if that ends up coming to fruition tomorrow. Curtis Robinson, not on this football team as of right now, but things can change. Again, we're going to the skyscraper construction metaphor. 49ers are still working on the skyline as we speak. Cornerback room. Dallas Flowers did not make the team. Why did Darrell Luter Jr. make it over him? Well, just look at contracts. Darrell Luter Jr. had 2 years left on his rookie deal. Dallas Flowers was here on a 1-year deal. So you keep more team control if all things are even. I thought that for a lot of camp, there was a chance that both Dallas and Darrell Luter Jr. would make the 49ers team. But the emergence of Chase Lucas changed some things for the 49ers. I talked about this leading up into the cutdown. Lucas playing outside cornerback in that preseason finale after playing only slot cornerback showed that the 49ers were at least testing the idea of comfort with Chase Lucas as cornerback number 4. Once Lucas showed the 49ers he can hang, that he could hold it at cornerback number 4, they said, okay, we can get rid of one of either Dallas Flowers or Darrell Luter Jr. With everything else being equal, they decided to keep the guy with 2 years of team control and probably more special teams versatility, younger player in Darrell Luter Jr. Special teams, obviously, a big part of this entire equation. So that's how the cornerback room is built. Lenore, Green, Luter, Chase Lucas as the backup to Upton Stout, but also as the emergency cornerback on the outside behind Lenore, Green, Luter. Probably not behind Saran Neal, but that is the way that the 49ers have constructed this room with 6 corners. Finally, safety. We are in the clear to see a rookie starter for the 49ers here. Marquise Siegel, very likely alongside Jason Pinnock. Malik Mustafa has gone to PUP. That is as expected for the 49ers. So, safety position, I think you've got your 2 guys. The 2 toolsy, traits-based players who Robert Saleh is going to like at safety. No trades, at least yet, for the 49ers. Somebody like Jair Brown is on the roster. Somebody like Richie Grant is on the roster. Jair might be a trade candidate at some point if there is value there. For now, though, the 49ers need some depth at safety. That's with Malik on the PUP list, and they've got 4 players at that position. And special teams, well, that's the big fun of it all, isn't it? Tomorrow, the 49ers are going to re-sign their punter, Thomas Morstead, and they're going to put some of the finishing touches on what they are building. This was just the beginning for the 49ers, and I think that it's very, very important to realize that as they try to build the beautiful final picture. They practice tomorrow at 3:10 p.m. By then, they'll have their actual initial functional 53-man roster and 17-man practice squad in the building.